Hi, I'm Michael Killen. Does the Inflation Reduction Act really help us? Does it help the people of the United States? I am especially interested in the energy and climate change aspects of that act. And I have invited one of the United States world leading consultants on energy, climate change issues, Dr. Ripudaman Malhotra. He is going to be my guest, and we are going to discuss the energy aspects of the Inflation Reduction Act. Ripu, where are you?
Here I am. Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, you have many accomplishments. What are two of the most important accomplishments you have made in the energy climate change world?
You're putting me on the spot here.
Better
Well,
you're off balance than me.
Okay, I'll tell you the one big thing that I'm very proud of also was my contribution to the writing of A Cubic Mile of Oil. It's an energy primer for the general public. It lays out all the options of what it needs because the climate change is at the base and energy crisis, really. We need gobs and gobs of clean energy. And that, I think, is the one I would put as number one of mine.
All right, what about your Ph.D. in chemistry?
Well, that was all the necessary thing to go through, and that's what allowed me to work on energy-related problems for more than 36 years at SRI.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned from while doing the research, how complicated and how essential energy is to our lives.
I have one more question. The dozens and dozens of reports you wrote or managed, is that something you're also very proud of?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just wondering how many Republicans voted for the Inflation Reduction Act?
Zero.
Zero, huh? And this is an act that I'm sure you agree significantly benefits the people of the United States. And would I be correct to say that group that voted zero is a group that's the paralysis of the idiots? Or would that be too strong or light of a term to say to you?
I think it's too strong. I
Too
think there are
strong.
other reasons, and there could be some real reasons why they may not want to do it, because how far this goes and all that. I think we can argue.
Okay.
But I think overall it's a very good bill. There are lots of good things in it to like it. And maybe there are strong political reasons for not supporting it. That's one reason all the Republicans have stayed away from it.
All right, we're going to focus on energy, and please, Ripu, no more political statements.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's stay away from that. Let's see what it does.
Okay. My first question is, prior to the announcement of the Inflation Reduction Act, we were focused, the industry, on President Biden's energy initiatives. Would you agree?
Yes, the Build Back Better plan. That was the one that we all were looking forward to and seeing how. But it was a humongous plan. It was huge. Yeah.
So how do we put what's happening now, this new Inflation Reduction Act, which has energy and climate solutions, how do we think of that with respect to what was the energy initiatives of the United States?
Right. If I focus only on the energy initiatives, there is most of the energy initiatives that were in Build Back Better are in the Inflation Reduction Act. So it hasn't had a much drastic cut. the portions that got cut were many of the social services and social things that they were in there, and they Build Back Better. And there were some more direct investments that may have come back. But let's look at the overall impact. The greenhouse gas emissions, if we focus on those for a minute.
All right.
The United States in the Paris Agreement pledged that we will be heading to 50% reduction from the 2005 levels by 2030. We would barely get to about 30% reduction. We were headed that way, 24 or 25%, 25 to 30%, somewhere in between those numbers. With the Build Back Better, we would have hit that target of down to by 50% from the 2005 level. With the Inflation Reduction Act, we get down much more. We get down to about 40% left. 40, 42, some estimates are a little more, a little less, but these are. So we are getting quite a bit of it done, 80% of the way down from what we want to be. And if we can be a little better, sure, we can meet that target. So that's the overall picture that it can get you there.
Okay, these numbers and goals are interesting, but what does it mean to the people all around the world right now that are suffering from heat waves and flooding and tornadoes and other kinds of storms that are wrecking their homes, their livelihood? The farmers of the United States are running out of water. How does this new Inflation Reduction improve the lives of the people of the United States?
I'm afraid it does very little for that, because that's a global phenomenon. And we are on the right path. We're making progress. And if we can replicate this kind of thing and show leadership and provide solutions that can be adopted elsewhere, things may not get as bad as they otherwise might. But right now, we are in for a long haul of really severe consequences of the climate change.
Okay, can we focus now on energy? The positive initiatives of this new Inflation Reduction Plan. And do you have a way of breaking the topic down to maybe 3 different areas? And maybe if you do, give them to me, please.
Sure. So I like to think of the energies always in 3 main buckets: the production, the distribution, and the consumption.
All right.
And whether it is fossil energy or whether it is wind energy, whether it is whatever, gas, it's always, you have to produce it, you have to get it to the people, and the people have to use it and see the devices that they can use it. So that's a good organizing principle that I use often in my work.
Or could we? I don't mean to.
Just one second. Right now, it is important that we try to electrify as much as possible all the sectors of which is the transportation, the industry, the residential, commercial sectors, you name it, because this is one good way that we can really curb emissions and reduce pollution, provided we also produce the electricity in the first place in a clean, carbon-free manner. But so this is important. So in every position, so this bill really focuses very heavily on electricity generation, electricity transmission and distribution, and electricity consumption.
All right. All of that sounds great, but you got me thinking about these 3 buckets, okay? So my mind is there. Production was the first thing.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying the creation of electricity and probably heat. And maybe you'd pick up on, expand on that. Just
Sure.
production.
So we really need to increase our terawatt hours of electricity that we produce, almost double it by 2050 or so. It'll be needed because we'll be using more and more electricity for transportation, and we will be using it for industry as we go. So the production has to increase. Clean energy production. So currently, the wind and solar are, there are about 10-15% of the actual electricity that we produce. So this could be increased substantially, at least 50 to 20%. Another big chunk that we have is nuclear. This bill has about $30 billion in it to assist nuclear through tax credits and all that to survive. So the closure, so the rush to closures may be stemmed. And also developing new nuclear, which is carbon free. It has a very large tax credits, and both investment tax credits and production tax credits. It locks those production tax credits for 10 years so industry can really invest in it for wind and solar. So they're one of the big winners. $60 billion, I understand, is the number that goes in there. That's the government side of it. But this is to be leveraged, I assume, by substantial investments from the industry as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if the total gigawatts of installed capacity of wind and solar could increase from currently around 200 gigawatts to about 300 gigawatts.
All right, can I interrupt you? Do you have, and I know the government hasn't given us all the details yet, but do you have an idea how big the production market is going to be over the next 10 years? Or what increase from whatever level it's at now? Okay.
It was going to be a substantial, I would say about 50% increase.
All right, good.
It's a big market. It's in the trillions of dollars. And they're coming, and I can see easily things pouring in from different sources. Given the long term, I think I really like the fact that they have locked in 10 years worth of credits.
Okay.
Before we go, stability is helpful.
Before we go to the next bucket, thank you. One company that's going to benefit in the production area from
good question. Good question. Actually, there's a couple. One that reminds me of another thing. So I would say that those companies that are really installing wind and solar are the big winners. Okay. So companies like Siemens Gamesa or General Electric, those are really good. And then there is many others also. One aspect, Michael, that is very important to remember in this generation and in this energy bill, which one shouldn't overlook because it has a multiplier effect later on, is if I look at the solar, they're installing, there are lots of companies in the US that are installing, but the solar panels they're getting are all from China. The production of solar panels in the US has gone down to near zero. This bill allows for restarting
the American
panel production, manufacturing of clean energy systems, manufacturing of the wind turbines, manufacturing of the solar panels, manufacturing of those things is being brought here. That's going to make a bigger impact. That's going to, in terms of people's lives, this is now you're talking millions of jobs.
Okay. The other bucket was distribution.
Yes.
Technology for the distribution of energy or heat.
Right. So
tell me about
electricity. Let's focus on electricity.
Sure.
The U.S. grid. If you're going to rely a whole lot more, as this bill does, on wind and solar, which are intermittent sources, we really need to have grid connectivity. We have basically the Eastern grid, the Western grid, the Texas grid, and things like that. But They are partly connected, but we need interconnects to transfer large amounts of power from one site to another, so that when there is a heat wave or where there's an increased demand in one place and somebody else can provide it, we can easily transfer it.
Okay.
So companies that are involved in transmission distribution, one of the hurdles for them has been procuring easement rights. Simple things like that have come in the way and have been very difficult. And I saw provisions in this Inflation Reduction Act for streamlining those processes.
Good.
I wish them success. I hope this can go through, because that would make the expansion of the renewables, the wind and solar, a little more effective. Otherwise, they would not be. They would be sitting idle, or we'll have to be turning them off and paying them curtailment credits and not getting any benefit.
It seems you're talking about what was in the President Biden's energy initiative, is to create the advanced electric grid.
Yep.
Which is
That's right.
To extend it, improve the interconnection, improve protection from hackers and whatever. And the third area you mentioned that enables people to focus their thinking is distribution. The distribution of energy.
No, that's the second. That's still the transmission and distribution. The third is the consumption.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can make mistakes. Consumption.
Yeah. And this consumption is a very big bucket, because we consume in so many different ways. So there's one big one is the transportation. And over there, it's the electric vehicles. That's the big one. And they are pushing for a really big way, increasing the number of EVs, having the critical materials that will be needed. They will be needed. And I'm glad to see that they are putting emphasis on the production of those materials, those minerals, and processing of those minerals in this country. That is absolutely essential. Otherwise, like the batteries that are at the heart of it, again, are pretty much all obtained from China or Chinese companies who are building plants in this country.
Or
so like
minerals.
CATL is the biggest one.
Where?
CATL is a company.
Okay. So the minerals also come from Africa, and some may come from Russia.
And Australia, and there's more, Argentina, and there are several places, more than just that.
So there's major focus on battery production.
Yeah.
And right in the United States.
Yep.
What about cars?
Cars are electric vehicles, so they're going to stimulate that by providing people with tax credits. So for a new vehicle up to $7,500, and for a used vehicle up to $4,000.
And they all must be electric.
Electric.
Yes. If I was to buy a new EV, when does the tax credit kick in for me? Do I have to wait until next year?
I am not sure about that. You talk to your tax advisor about it. But I suspect, Michael, you may not get any. You may not. I think you earn too much.
Okay.
Because there are some cutoffs. There are cutoffs. If your earnings are greater than a certain amount, you get less. Which okay.
Okay. Can we go back now to the electrification of communities?
Right. That's another one. There's a big chunk of money so our home appliances, many of them, like for the heating, we use gas burners, right?
Yeah.
For gas furnaces. They're going to be converting those into heat pumps, which are electricity driven. And they're providing lots of tax credits for converting things like that. There's money also for doing it at a district-wide, using what's known as district energy systems. And we have them in this country, but they're generally on a campus
Yeah.
or a hospital, or or a university campus, or one refinery would have. So whenever they have a like a- even at my company where I worked, SRI, we had a small backup power generation system, and it was always a combined heat and power. So we would generate our own electricity, and that's basically for backups and things like that. But when we do that with a gas or with oil or something, there's a fair amount of heat. That
Yeah.
heat is captured, that rejected, the waste heat is captured to boil water, and that steam or hot water is then distributed throughout the. So some companies specialize in laying these insulated pipes, and now they're also insulating pipes are with cold water, chilled water. So you provide both the heat and the cooling at a district level for covering many buildings, many offices, and things like that. And
One
that's a
company
big.
that, okay, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
one company that'll benefit from subsidies in the district energy marketplace.
Well, there are several. But, okay, Siemens is again one of them.
All right.
Siemens does a lot. But the real big ones, I think, are Danfoss. There's the many Scandinavian countries. And Nextera, I think that does it. Nextera is another US company that is going in many different sectors of electricity markets. And there's another very similar sounding name, Invengen or something like that. I'm
Okay.
not that up on all the names of the companies. There
That's
have been too many
okay.
mergers. There have been mergers also, and they changed their names.
Yeah.
I
Now,
thought Bong was the big one, but I think Veolia was a French company which are very famous with these things, and they have been acquired. There's a US. It's now a US.
Vince, Vicinity, I think is,
Vicinity. That's the one. That's right.
yes.
Vicinity was the name I was trying to
Yeah.
think of. Yeah, you're right.
Now, if you are anything, Ripu, you are a clear thinker. You organize things beautifully. And I believe you could share with us a little bit about the generations of where an organization is, let's say a company or Los Angeles, where they are in the process of implementing technology. And to further clarify my question, Stanford University says their energy system is a fourth generation. So I'm not asking for definitions of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you want to say something before I get to my question?
No, thank you for mentioning Stanford and fourth generation. That made it clear to me as to what you were referring to. And I was saying, well, I was thinking nuclear power, first generation reactor, third generation reactor. What generation are you talking about? But you were focusing on the district heating levels. Okay, now I understand.
Yes. So now I want to share this
Most of them
for
are, most of the companies are right now using what's called second generation. Second generation is what I call when they are doing combined heat and power production, using the hot waters and distributing it. That's it. When they have heating and cooling, they call it third generation. And if they do this heating and cooling with only electricity and no use of fossil fuels, that's the fourth generation. That's what Stanford has done. And if you see, I just skipped the first generation. The first generation is what you have by a very large amount in countries like Iceland, where they have plenty of geothermal, and nearly all the homes and all the offices are heated by the gift of the decaying thorium in our Earth's mantle that provides us with the underground heat.
Does this make sense? If you are running a company that provides various types of energy solutions, and you have your sales team and marketing team, if they go out and sort of research the various companies out there, and they discover that a certain group are at generation 2. Does that mean something to these big marketing organizations that that company is now a prospect for equipment systems that will take them to generation 3? Is that a way that industry of suppliers think?
I think that's a very useful thing to begin with, your analysis as to where you are. But in any of these things, these are expensive propositions. And so you have to look at what's the incremental benefit. And in terms of heating, like if you take the generation 2 to generation 3, what we have done is we have gone from just heating to heating and cooling. That works best when you're heating and cooling things, the demands are somewhat matched. If they are not matched, then it doesn't make much sense.
Yes.
And so it's a more complicated answer than saying that, yeah, Joe, if you are in generation 2, you should go for generation 3. You got to look at it a little more carefully.
Okay, we don't have much more time, but you've been beautiful. I just want to bring up something you had said to me. It is, let's say you're in generation 2. If you've been there a long time, your equipment is running out.
Yeah.
If you just got there, you're not a prospect for 3. Yeah. And then I just want to share, as you know, I interpreted Stanford's generation 4 system on a 15-foot by 6-foot painting, which I'm now making available to companies for their exhibits to help them increase their brand, etc. And then I want to make one other point. You are an independent consultant also, but you are also an associate of Killen Associates. And your job is, when one of these big corporations wants to do business with us, we provide them a study to help them market, sell, and you are in charge of that. And I'm going to end by saying it is truly an honor to have you leading that aspect of the team.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good. Opportunity for you to apply your brain, which I know you love to do.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm Michael Killen, killen.com. Okay, bye.